What's up, everyone, and welcome back to the Smile Today podcast, the number one podcast in the world to make you smile today. I hope you're all having a blessed day so far, and if you're watching this episode, it says feeling alone. Let me help you change the way you look at it. So I want to start with a story real quick, and this is going back to my college years. Oh, I'm like reminiscing. I'm an alumni now. I actually graduated like 3 months ago, not even, and college is a really hard time for me, to be completely honest with you. College was a pivotal moment in my life, but it was so difficult because I never felt like I belonged. I really, truly always felt like I was alone. Like no one really understood me. Like no one got me. Like I was on this path that no one really understood. And I think it's just because I surrounded myself with the wrong people and I didn't realize how much my environment affected me until I left it. So I want to encourage you with this story because maybe you're at a season right now where maybe you're a college student, maybe you're in school right now and you haven't made the right circle of friends and you haven't felt like, anyone's truly heard you or seen you. I want to tell you that first off, I see you. I hear you. I know you. I love you. And I want to say that you matter. Like I know when you feel alone, you feel like no one cares about you. You feel like you have no purpose. But the chances of you being born are 1 in 400 trillion. Like, that's crazy. That's so amazing. And that tells me that God put you here for a purpose, that you and me aren't having this conversation by accident. So I just want to start off by saying that. This episode is brought to you by Talkspace. If you ever thought about therapy but didn't know where to start, Talkspace makes it simple. It's online, so you can talk to a licensed therapist from anywhere. No commuting, no wait rooms, no long wait lists. And the best part? For most people, it's covered by insurance. Sometimes the copay is even $0. That means real help, flexible scheduling, and care that actually fits your lifestyle. I know how hard and heavy life can feel when you try to carry it alone. You don't have to anymore. Use the link in the description to get started today because your mental health matters. Now, let's get right back into the episode. And going back to the story, in college, I went through this really hard season where I was so anxious and depressed. It was actually when I started social media. I had imposter syndrome. And imposter syndrome is basically like you don't look at yourself. People look at you in a different way than you look at yourself. And that way I looked at myself was basically just negative. It was like, I am just the worst person ever. I would call myself all these bad names. And it was because I wasn't proud of my past. My past was something that I tried to run away from and escape with social media. I was like, okay, I can start fresh on here. But as I continued to grow, it just started to swallow up all my thoughts and my time and just my energy because, people were DMing me and they're like, hey, Jack, you're awesome. You're my inspiration. Hey, Jack, you're my role model. I'm like, dude, I suck. Like, respectfully. I was just not a good person. I made a lot of mistakes and I was so worried about all my mistakes from the past coming out that each day I woke up, I was just so troubled. I was like, oh, what if this happens? Like, what if this video comes out and it just ruins my career and I'm done? And it's like, I don't even know what to do. And it's like, oh, Lord, help me. But I didn't know Jesus at that time. I wasn't saved. I didn't believe in God. So I had this really hard season where I would just sit in my room, isolated, lonely, not alone. I was lonely because I just was constantly in my thoughts and I didn't know if there was a way out. And those thoughts started to consume me. And I truly believe it was the devil just, picking at me and saying like, you're not enough. You're not good enough. You deserve all these bad things that are happening to you in the way that you feel. And that just wasn't the truth. But again, it swallowed me up so much to a point where I was ready to just be done. I was completely at a point where I was ready to act on not being in this earth anymore. And there was always this voice in the back of my head telling me like, stay here, stay another day, keep going. And that was God. I truly believe it was God. And I knew at that point that I needed a savior. And I started to learn more about Jesus. But there was also a point where I was learning more about Jesus and I was learning about mental health at the same time. So I was learning about science, and then I was learning about this wisdom that I couldn't understand yet because I wasn't truly saved. I was kind of like a lukewarm Christian. I was like, okay, I believe in Jesus, I believe in what he's doing, but I wasn't truly saved. My actions still weren't aligning with what Jesus did and how he lives his life. So I went through this season of isolation where I was like, okay, well, I'm going to learn as much as I can about all these different mental health topics. And And loneliness and being alone was one that I really resonated with me because I spent so much time alone in college. And there was a point where I hated it, and there was a point where I loved it. And now I love it more than ever. I try to find more time alone, to be completely honest, because I don't feel like I get enough of it. I'm so busy with this amazing blessing of a platform, being able to talk to you guys every day, posting on platforms. It is so amazing. But it really is a huge time consumer. And I try to find solitude in anything that I do right now. But for a while, I would just run away from it. Because the difference between being alone and being lonely is being alone is a state of being lonely is a state of mind. And we try to fill that gap of loneliness with busyness and chasing the next best thing. We're like, okay, I don't feel like doing this right now, but you know what? I'm just going to turn on this show. I'm going to turn on this music. I'm going to turn on, all these different things so I don't have to listen to those thoughts, because those thoughts are bad thoughts. I don't want to hear those thoughts. No, no, no. I can't. Me in my own thoughts and alone in a room. Yeah, you're crazy. No, actually, there's a large study that's shown that people would rather receive mild stimulus, like mild shock, than be in a room alone with their own thoughts. Because you know what happens when you sit alone with your own thoughts in your solitude with just silence, no stimulus, no nothing? There's a lot of unprocessed emotions that start to surface. There's a lot of feelings and things and insecurities that we haven't faced yet. And it's healthy to face those things. Let me tell you, it is so healthy. And it'll actually allow you to have more self-compassion and more self-love once you're able to dissect these moments of being alone. Once you're able to be like, okay, this isn't actually that bad. What I'm thinking about right now, okay, this is just something a pattern that I need to understand about myself and something that I need to improve on. That's it. That's it, truly. So I want to encourage you guys to sit alone in silence. And I know you're like, Jack, that's impossible. I can't do that. Like my brain can't physically take that. Like I'm at where you were 2 years ago. Well, let me tell you, you can still do it on autopilot. So it's called shower thoughts. When you're showering, you're cleaning your body or whatever, and you're starting to think, and you're like, oh, well, these aren't like great thoughts. But you know what? I'm thinking, I don't have music on, and my phone's over there. I can't touch it. It'll get wet. It'll, ruin my phone. We need to have more shower thoughts throughout our day on autopilot. So a good example of doing this, when I drive, I don't listen to music. I listen to nothing. I just like to think. It's very healthy to do that. Finding little gaps in your day to be able to think is so important. When you exercise, I exercise for an hour a day minimum. No music. Sometimes I do listen to music. I'm not like, I'm not saying I'm like crazy in a sense, but I just really value that solitude now because it's just something that I've embraced and I love because it teaches me more about my patterns, my thoughts, and where my brain is going. And so, again, like walking, folding your laundry, dishes, cooking is something big. My mom and I always talk about this. Like, I love cooking because it just, I'm doing something, but I'm also thinking, I'm like, oh, this feels so good. But again, if you're at that point where you're like, I can't sit alone with my thoughts. So let's do those. Let's have solitude on autopilot. And then what we're going to do is, okay, you have some negative thoughts that are emerging. All right, let's write them down. Let's write them down on paper and let's see. Again, I always say you can't read the label if you're inside the jar. Let's write this down. Let's get outside the jar and realize, okay, this is how my patterns are. This is how I'm thinking right now. And this isn't healthy. Okay. But now that I understand this and lay it out in black and white, oh, I actually understand this better. Oh, I can actually combat these problems because it's actually not that big. The worry that I'm having right now is actually not that bad. It's just I'm making it worse because I'm having this negative thought and then it's starting to spiral because negative thoughts spiral. They go into like these crazy, unrealistic thoughts. We talked about anxiety last week. Like anxiety just pulls you into this like loop of here's the worst possible case scenario that can happen. And here's how, this is what you think is going to happen. But realistically, it's not. So getting down to the bottom of it and being like, oh, wait, this isn't actually going to happen like this. Okay, that's good. Now let's dissect and backtrack where this thought came from and be like, okay, well, if I'm thinking this way, how can I break out of it? And it's about those quick shifts. Why is this happening to me? What is this teaching me? I can't believe I made that mistake. No, I needed that lesson to grow, right? There's just so many things that, I shouldn't have done that. Like, it's okay. Like, it's a life lesson, right? It's not a life sentence. That's pretty much what I'm trying to tell you guys. You're able to make these quick shifts and dissect your negative thought patterns. That's going to help you so much. It helped me so much. So guys, don't run away from your solitude. Make sure that you spend time in it and you're like, okay, I want to find these little gaps throughout my day to make sure that I'm okay. Because again, you can't pour from an empty cup. right? You can't. So you got to be a little bit selfish before you can be selfless. So I want you to be mindful of what you consume this week, the shows you watch, the music you listen to, and the people you surround yourself with. If they aren't making you better, if it's making you have more negative thoughts, if it's contributing to, this isolation and this loneliness feeling, get rid of that. It's not good for you, right? So get away from that, right? And exposure therapy is really what's going to help us. Again, putting ourselves in solitude intentionally is so important. It's so, so important. So I want to encourage you to do that this week and make sure that you are making these shifts, right? Having a more positive perspective and a better outlook on life is going to help you so much more. And again, making those quick shifts is so important. And I also want to encourage you guys and say that you are never truly alone. That God is always with you and he is always watching you and guiding you and holding your hand. God is literally sitting in this room right now looking at us and being like, yo, I like what we're talking about right now. Like, this is so important. But at the end of the day, prayer was something that was so important to me in my solitude, bringing my worries to God and being like, God, I can't carry this. God, I'm nothing without you, God, and I just need you in every second of every day. It's not transactional. It's literally like God has this unconditional love for you and he sees you and he knows your name. And it's like, how can I continue to, be a better servant of God and just make sure that, I am truly seeking him out, because his peace, his comfort, and his joy is just the best thing ever. And it's something that you never want to detach from once you know his love and his presence. So I want to encourage you. And I was reading Matthew this week, and in chapter 6 is just so amazing. If you want to read through any chapter of Matthew, read through chapter 6. And chapter 6, verse 33 says, "But seek first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things will be given to you." So if you're seeking God and you're understanding like, okay, God, I need help with this. God, I can't sit here and I can't do this alone. Like, run to God, sprint to him, and literally be like, God, I need you. Like, I can't do this without you. And you are just so good to me all the time. And I just want to make sure that I can continue to be the best possible vessel for you, God. And I know that maybe that means I need to spend more time with you. And maybe I need to spend more prayer time and intentional time with you. Because that was something I've been struggling with recently. I'm like, why do I feel like I'm falling back into this emptiness? Why do I feel like I'm falling back into this isolation, into this like I'm missing out feeling? And it's because I haven't been spending enough time with the Lord, my creator, my sustainer, the one who put me in this position. So now I've been taking more intentional time with the Lord and being like, God, how can I continue to serve you? What is your will? God, I surrender your will. I want to obey to whatever you have for my life, but I just want to listen to your voice. And God says, my sheep hear my voice. So he is the good shepherd. So I'm going to the good shepherd and saying, God, like, what can I do today to work towards your will? What can I do today to be that person that you created in your image? So dwell on that this week and really be like, okay, when you have that alone time, when you're just sitting in silence and you know that you need to spend time with the Lord, run to God, pray to God. It'd be like, God, I love you. God, I need you. And I promise he will see you. So guys, I hope this episode helped you so much today. Again, you are never truly alone, and I care about you and I love you. I hope you have a blessed day, and make sure to smile today.